You have the last word, man. Like, what would you want to leave to the people listening to this, whether it be now or could be 10 years from now, that live on YouTube?
It's kind of like important to continue learning. There is a number of organizations that are peer-to-peer learning, sort of like what you guys are doing. I feel like it's like a peer-to-peer organization. People can learn from you, from each other. I know you have a great Facebook group as well where people can learn. And ultimately, also realizing you don't have to do everything by yourself.
All right, guys, we have another fantastic episode on the Phone Warriors podcast today. We have Nikolay from New York City. Nikolay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Nikolay, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and where you work and how long you've been in the business. What's your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally was actually born far away. I was born in Russia. Then I had the pleasure of growing up in Spain, playing professional tennis. That led me to come into the United States, playing for college. And right out of college, I got into real estate. So about 10 years ago. I originally started working for Keller Williams in New York City. Then we switched to Compass. Compass didn't last for us longer than 2.5 years. And then we came back to Keller Williams. And then we're kind of looking to see what is the right place for us, right structure, and we couldn't quite find what exactly it is going to be. So when we were absolutely not looking for the next company, somebody else approached us and said, hey, you guys have good production. How about we help you go from being a team to an independent boutique brokerage under an umbrella of a large organization? We're like, well, that sounds cool. Never heard of that. So that's how we became partners with a company called Side, and they allow us to be a brokerage called CitySphere here in New York City. They provide for us a number of systems, different marketing opportunities, and stuff like that. But ultimately, what it ends up being, we run our own business on our own terms. We recruit a variety of agents, and we operate like a mix between a team and a brokerage.
Wow, that's amazing. How did just out of curiosity, how did that make you feel that other people out there were looking at your production and gave you such a great opportunity at that time?
To be honest, we for a while weren't sure if we wanted to go into something like that. It took us about 6 months to make a decision because we've had a really good relationship with the ownership of existing Keller Williams franchise, and I think they were providing us fantastic terms. But at the same time, we realized that if we wanted to grow and have that opportunity to recruit higher caliber of agents and be very competitive with what's out in the market, we just had to take the leap of faith. And the company was fairly new to New York City. We're only about 7, 8 brokerages that they back up here in New York City. So it was a little bit of a leap of faith at that point.
Wow.
And then if you can give the viewers just some context, like what's your average price point in the city? Like, what do you typically like kind of go after, and what does your production look like? I mean, at least for the goal wise for the for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, we were shooting to do more than what we did last year. We kind of did around the same volume last year and the year before. We hovered around that $45 million mark. But aside from being at that $45 million mark, maybe pushing it to 50, maybe it could be a little bit lower this year, who knows, right? But ultimately, the goal was to help shift the organization in the right space. And I think that was even more important than just production alone. And for us, we are competing with a lot of companies that have deep pockets or providing different structures. So we just really had to figure out how we're going to stand out. And for us, it became being more full service for the agents, making sure that transaction coordination, listing coordination, bunch of other services are provided to them by our operations team. So as a result, I think it's official information. As a few days ago, one of the Manhattan brokerages went out of business in terms of they're not going to be a real estate brokerage anymore. It's called Avenue 8. And we had a number of people that we've connected with, and we're working and recruiting people with experience of 10 to 15 years. So production is important for us. That's how we, pay our bills and continue growing. But ultimately, getting an opportunity to recruit people who are in really good production and provide them the right atmosphere has been kind of like one of the highest priorities.
Nice. So what I'm hearing, the word recruiting, I mean, it seems like you've made quite the transition, just based on like what I'm hearing, right? It's like, from since I knew you from like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago when we met, and then
And
all the, right, 10 years. I mean, isn't that crazy? Oh my God, it's to 2024. Yeah, that's wild. So 10 years in the business, you were always a very successful individual agent. And by the way, if you don't mind telling how old are you now?
I'm 30.
You're 30 now, guys. He's 30 years old. Okay. This isn't like a, 50-year-old guy in New York City, like from like one of the old dogs. The reason why that's important is that you started so young and you like became very successful very early on. What would you attribute that success to ultimately?
I think I'll take a step back, and I don't think I was necessarily very successful. I think first couple of years were actually really difficult. What I tell people, I played credit card catch-up game. So I would put my expenses on credit card, and then I would try to catch up. Whenever I get a commission, I pay it off, and then I do it all over again. So that lasted for a couple of years. And I think then we sort of started getting into stability. And what has really sort of like what was the breaking point to break through was coming out after COVID, because I know that like suburbs were booming, but for us, like once we went on shutdown, like the business was at pause. So we tried to prepare for things when the market would open up again, and starting in 2021, that's when things started really picking up, really booming, and we started doing a lot more deals, and hopefully, from where I can see, kept up the same production until then to now. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of people going on around and say that they've been successful from day one, but I think the reality of it, it's very challenging in the beginning, and you sort of have to be patient and work your way through. I tell many times our team members as well, for example, if they decided to become a doctor now, one, they would have to wait like 5 to 10 years, get in debt for like 2 to 3 to 400,000. I don't know what's the school costing right now. And here we're making money first year, technically. Even if you made 30,000, you're technically making more than somebody who decided to take a leap of faith and become a doctor. Maybe they will exceed you in 10 years. Maybe you will. I mean, life will show.
Absolutely. And the 10 years, how was your production and like basically your schedule, like from the first 1 to like 3 years, and then like when did you guys really take that turn and then skyrocket it to get to that 40 to 50 million dollar range? Like what did that look like for you? Because I feel like a lot of people think that it comes easy, it's your database, it's your network. Like what were you specifically doing to be able to have a nice trajectory over your career?
Yeah, I think it's never been just up. It's been kind of like up and down. And I think the big mindset shift has been to learn to take some of our challenges as actually a positive thing in the business, because then we can reorganize and learn from them. In regards to what we've done, in the beginning, when I just joined kind of like New York City brokerage community, I guess, I didn't know anyone, and the fastest way to make money was to do rentals. So I would go around town, take pictures of quote unquote open listings, post them on a platform that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be called Naked Apartments. I think one of the like conglomerates bought it and probably shut it down at some point. And then, yeah, I was like, the more people I speak to, even if I'm horrible at my job, the more likely I will be able to convert some rentals. And yeah, I would go out sometimes in the morning with one group, in the afternoon with another, and in the evening with a third one. So I was like, you know what, if I do this for a week, I probably will close one or something. So that has helped to get into the rental production quickly. That helped to pay some of the bills and start figuring out things, what to do for sale. Me and my prior business partner, John, with whom we're still good friends, like we would try out different things. We would try out mail in the building. And we're like, wow, like this is expensive actually to mail a 300-unit building in the beginning of your career. And you do it once and you're like, well, nobody called me. What do I do next? Type of situation. We would go, I don't know, door knocking to like different stores, meeting local owners and stuff. And we would just basically try to throw a bunch of things against the wall and see what sticks. And we had a few breakthroughs when we got a call for somebody buying an apartment downtown. That has helped. Also really engaging with expired listings. That was something that helped us to go and have more confidence. Take a number of listings as kind of like very young agents, because we were like in our early to mid 20s, and making a listing appointment to somebody whose net worth is in tens of millions and the apartment is worth a couple of million was a little bit challenging, but we try to find whatever our value proposition was back then and maximize it and get the listings. And that was kind of like another stepping stone. And then ultimately, what has helped us to really scale coming out of after the COVID shutdown was, one, the database started working a little bit more after like 5-6 years in the business. And also we heard that a company called Street Easy, which is basically a Zillow version for New Yorkers here, that is also owned by Zillow, started doing their own kind of like referral fee program type of thing. And as soon as I heard, I was like, I have to be on that. That's wonderful. I think they have a lot of power there. Ended up being a part of that program, and that has helped us to close a number of deals, whether it's some Soho townhouses in several millions of dollars, or Park Avenue, $8.5 million purchase. And that has improved our database overall as well, which led to other referrals and stuff like that. So you really have to put the work forward, in my opinion, in this business.
Okay. But like, it's easy to say that, but you're doing it for such a long period of time. And I feel like going back to your professional tennis days,
yeah,
what are like 1 to 2 things that you took in your life that you learned from those days that you implement, let's say, from an either disciplined way, or like what did you get from that like really has helped you grow into the agent that you are today, let's say?
Yeah, and I think now I have a lot more work, but I have more flexibility in the sense of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it now, or at least I think so. But in the beginning, what really has helped was like putting the head down and saying, okay, I'm going to call expireds at 8 a.m. because I want to be the first one to speak to them. And just really allocating that time and allocating that effort, saying I need to speak to X amount of people. And it's really hard, to be honest. Last thing I wanted to do is get out of my bed and speak to expireds at 8 a.m. And I've had like really like interesting conversations. Like people told me, and it was very much like few people that told me, but they would tell me like to shove things up my ass and stuff like that. It was
I was waiting for something along those lines.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But again, that's obviously not my clientele in terms of if somebody is like mean and rude like that. And I was just searching for somebody who's going to be nice and kind. But to go back to your question, I would just try to see what's of the highest importance and allocate as much time as possible to it. And I think as business grows, that question gets a little bit more complicated. What do I concentrate on? Do I concentrate on recruiting agents or prospecting, or what exactly it is? But in the beginning, when you want to make money, is I need to speak to the most people possible. If I feel good on the phone, I can do it. Great, I'm going to do it. And I have also good examples from the team. We have 2 guys. One is from France, one is from Italy. They're great professionals. And what they said themselves to, they were like, you know what, expired game is getting saturated. Let me go and network. And they went to galleries, they networked. So they've, in a month and a half, 2 months that they've done, we've already taken a $22 million commercial listing from them networking for a month and a half to 2 months. Is it a little bit too fast? Maybe, but do they deserve it? Yes, I do think they deserve it, because they've been putting the work into it, and again, we hope it sells, but you never know.
Wow.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so and that's the influence of what we call the database, the sphere of influence, right? The SOI, the COI. That was them working the database, not waiting and wishing and hoping and praying that somebody was going to contact them, right, through whatever a social media post that they may have done, or just a friend network, right? So
yeah, it's a context sport. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a contact sport, exactly. So what are you telling like some of your newer agents that don't have a database, like they're fresh, like I said, one's from Italy, one's from France, so they're fresh. Let's say they have nobody. How are you telling them to get contacts, in today's day and age?
I think you kind of also want to align it with personality. If somebody's personality is like, you know what, I'm going to be on a phone call and I never want to see somebody face to face until a listing appointment, great. Well, go for it. Do it. You can circle prospect, you can do expireds. It's definitely a grind. It's not easy. But if somebody is very sociable and likes being around people, which I think a lot of like successful salespeople, they like being around people, then great, let's go to galleries, let's go to Ferrari car event. I mean, a little challenging to get in, but there are, if you put your mind to it, you'll be able to find a way to get into those events as well and communicate with those people. I don't know if you necessarily want to be like, oh, hey, I'm a real estate agent. No, not so much. In those events, I think it's more about lifestyle and that you are a part of that lifestyle. I think if you are into baseball or tennis or whatever it is, then you can start getting involved more in those organizations. Just kind of like combine what's of interest to you and where people in your, I guess, like target zone of whom you want to work with are. Because ultimately, if I want to sell expensive real estate, but I go to like a knitting club in Brooklyn, I think it will be less likely that I'll meet the right person. Possible, but less likely.
So you sound
Understand.
very strategic in terms of how you go about networking or doing to these events and everything, which I think is beautiful. Do you have a coach, Nikolay?
Yes, we started working with somebody, but we started from another end. We started from the personal end of things, and we're starting to sprinkle personal into it. And we've had other coaches before as well. I just think that our business many times grows to the extent that we do.
So true. So, but just so we're clear, right? You've been in the game for 10 years. Have you always had a coach, or was there ever a year that you didn't have a coach?
A big portion of time I've had variety of coaches from different organizations. Yeah.
Why is that the case?
Sometimes I cannot see things that other people can that are more experienced, and I do believe that if you are looking to run a big business, you have to have coaches. Even if you want to take a break for a year or two, I think as you grow again, you probably will need another coach again, just like at each step, or like kind of like at each stepping stone.
Right. And guys, for the record, if you guys are whoever's listening to this on YouTube or wherever, I want you guys to realize something. He's not MFO. I don't even know who he's coaching with, but the fact that you have someone who's 30 years old who's coaching for as long as you have and sees the value in that, well, clearly there's something that to be said there, right? And so, but like there's one seems to be a trait that you have, Nikolay, that I've always valued. I've always seen in you that I'm like, this guy has it. And that's you let rejection almost roll off of you like it's nothing. Where did you learn that? Or what do you tell yourself when that guy says to you on the phone, go F yourself or whatever? Like what goes on in your mind? How do you get through that so fast to just keep on going?
I've lost a lot of tennis matches before, so I know what it's like to be either winning or to be defeated in some of those things. But I just think it's absolutely normal, just kind of like from a logical perspective. Why should everybody say yes to us? Like maybe just not the right time, not the right cup of tea. And I just, instead of like chasing something at this point, I just try to stay with my own values as much as I can. I think it's difficult sometimes, but I try to stay with my values, and whoever is attracted to that kind of to more calm, collective and strategic approach, those are the people that I sync very well with. I know that like I have, for example, friends that do incredible stuff on social media and they like constantly post and do videos and they get business that way. For me, at this stage of my life, I don't think that's my personality and my values, and I cannot replicate that. So again, I just go by what I can replicate and what resembles with me.
So staying true to yourself, knowing who you are as an individual and kind of going all in versus trying to dabble into many different areas and then getting nowhere at the end of the day, right?
I'm in the process of discovering who I am. I've had I've had my son was born about 2 years ago. So that has really changed a lot of things for me, and that brought in a lot of questions.
Right.
Okay.
And so you have your son, you have Julia, Julia, is she a partner now with you?
Yeah, Insidious Fear, and well, at the moment that we got married and slightly before, we were already partners in the business. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So how is that dynamic working? Because we have a lot of people in the Phone Warriors community that are either like husband and wife teams,
Yeah.
or there's other teams like that I know across the nation. What is your dynamic? Like, how do you split the responsibilities, and like, how do you guys work actually together now?
And that's a good question. And that's where somebody needs a coach. I'll mention 2 cents of my end, what we started to discover. One is boundaries, and really understanding what boundaries are. Because we sort of like leaning towards having 2 domains. One domain is work, and it's one thing. And another domain is being at home and being a husband and wife. So that is different things. So realizing, like our coach asked us, he's like, so who is the CEO? We're like, well, for us. He's like, yeah, that's not going to work. So let's explore that a little bit more. And you should have the org chart, because even though there is a hierarchy of org chart, it doesn't mean that the CEO is better than CMO or CBO or CFO. It just so happens that somebody reports to another person. And I think it's important to realize that.
Well, so having an org chart of your whole organization, so that's defining each and everybody's role, whether it be, like you said, on the top level, all the way down to inside sales, sales associates, admin help, everything. Like everybody has a definitive role of what they do to help the organization grow forward, correct?
Yeah, and that has been a big part of what we are doing or attempting our best to do, because let's say if the sales process begins here, I mean, whoever is listening to it may not see it, but basically if it starts here and finishes here, I think the agent should be concentrating only receiving the client and getting accepted offer. From there on, the brokerage or the team, whoever it is, in my eyes, from my vantage point in New York City, should be taking over a huge chunk of that process, from going from accepted offer to closing. And also we have something that's called board packages, which a lot of agents don't like doing. It's basically like full extreme financial disclosure once you have an accepted offer on the call. And we try to make sure we take over that. We take over about 50 to 60 steps that occur between accepted offer and the closing. So again, without org chart and knowing which operations people are working on, that is going to be very difficult.
I love how you guys are so systematized. I mean, it's actually something I feel like you need to do, especially with all the co-op. Is it true that like 80% of Manhattan's like co-op based sales?
Yeah, it's co-op based sales. And for somebody that doesn't know it, whenever a purchaser buys it, co-op can reject any purchaser with no reasonable explanation, with no explanation at all, actually. And there are no penalties to them. You just sort of get your deposit back many times, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like they were just designed to be like just legal discrimination to some extent. But
yeah, sometimes it could feel like that. We will never know. We can never, I guess, make any of those accusations. But that is a big portion of our market, and even people like Madonna have been rejected by co-ops.
wow, that's incredible. But so speaking about, so you cover all of Manhattan, right? Like that's your main market, right?
Correct. We cover all of Manhattan. We're an organization of about 15 people right now. That's with operations people and agents. And we also dabble into parts of Brooklyn that are closest to Manhattan, just because we like when it gets to the beach area on Brighton Beach and everything else, we don't know the market. It's completely different. We unfortunately cannot help there. But areas like Williamsburg, Park Slope, Crown Heights, we see a lot of people going there. And Brooklyn market has been booming, while Manhattan market is kind of flat buyer's market at the moment. So if somebody is looking to negotiate, try to get quote unquote a deal, Manhattan is the place. I know for you guys, probably you sell, I guess, a good portion of single family houses. They all fly off the shelf, from my understanding.
Well, I mean, for Rich, I think so too, right, Rich? I think your market's still doing that. I'm, as you know, I'm right across the river from you. We pretty much mirror what you guys have there. Now, how many agents would you say are now licensed that are active in Manhattan doing the business like yourself?
In New York City, I believe it's usually between 13 and 16,000 agents. That's in New York City. That's all five boroughs.
So 36,000, you said?
16, 1
Oh,
6.
16,000, right? So 16,000 agents within a few square miles or whatever you want to call it, right? Of
Yeah.
just like an island, right?
Yeah.
What, have you ever gotten to when you were coming up before those first couple of years, let's say, or in the messy middle and you're trying to get through and everything like that? But did you ever get oh my God, I'm comparing myself so much to these other agents that are doing big things, whether it be $1 million listing people or whatever? How have you stayed the course and been able to keep your focus and just keep driving it forward for yourself? What are you honestly telling yourself? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's also a great question. There is a lot of very successful agents that sell 3, 4, 500 million a year. And I think I kind of dissect it more and I question myself, if I work the same amount, can I get there? And I'm like, okay, probably. Would I want to have the same lifestyle? And I think to a lot of those agents, my answer would be no, I would not want their lifestyle. But for some of them, yes, I actually have friends that are running extremely successful business, very level-headed. I've had the pleasure of actually coaching with one of them for a little bit. And I think you go back to your values. Again, what do you want to do? Do you want to be kind of like the busiest and the richest person out there? Or do you want to build something meaningful, which for us, we really want to build a meaningful organization that's a home for people that want to grow and want to be salespeople rather than doing absolutely everything in the business. And you just go based on that direction in terms of what your values are, why you're doing it. And as my coach put it, is well, what can this business teach you? Because there's a lot of difficult moments. I get told a lot of bizarre things on a daily basis by other agents, and I'm like, I think that's a learning experience for me to learn how to process those things and not take them personally.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you have your ego in check with that. So that's great. I do have a question for you. I see that, you're dressed all nice and dapper, clean. Do you feel that, being well dressed and in your occupation, our occupation sets you apart from other real estate agents? Do you believe in that feel good, look good? So, what's the reason why, you have a suit and a tie out when it's 98 degrees outside today?
Yeah, and I'm not I'm almost making a joke of this. This is like a very nice summer suit because I was like, I'm not going to survive in anything else. But I usually think about it in a sense of if I'm going uptown, and usually uptown is a little bit more conservative for us, like Upper East Side, Upper West Side, I'm probably going to be in a suit, very likely. If I'm going downtown to West Village or Soho, I can totally pull off like a nice linen short, pants. But again, I think, yes, it is about looking good because, ultimately some people judge by the way we look and how presentable we are. And I also think about it, if I were to hire a lawyer or another trusted advisor, how would I want them to show up to me?
Great
Like,
point.
would I trust somebody if they were just wearing, I don't know, like a white t-shirt and they just rolled off, I don't know, with like some stains in it. I'm like, no, I probably would not trust that person too much. So I don't think it has to be expensive. I think if anybody is looking for good suits, and I'm not affiliated with them, but like Suit Supply is very reasonable, good choices, and somebody can look good and not spend necessarily a ton of money.
And let's say that's awesome. Let's just say it's like a newer agent. We have a lot of newer agents in our community and also that I know exist. And what's funny, Nikolay, too, is that so many newer agents, like when we were coming up, we didn't have the YouTube that the agents have, I feel like now with all this information out there. So for those that are watching that are getting into the business or they've been in a few years, like in that first couple of years that you had as well, what would you say to those people to do and where should they target their mindset to attack if they want to say, I want to be like Nikolay, I want to conquer, New York City real estate and try to see what I can do? What would you recommend to them?
I would say go and interview teams and brokerages to see what the value is. And by the value, I don't mean, like, I think many times the conversation comes up, what are the splits? And we're not very negotiable in terms of our splits, just because we know the value we provide. Our margins are not extremely high. So we just kind of like know that we cannot go above certain price point. And we want to also keep as much as possible the same conditions for everyone. But ask the brokerages or the teams, what do they provide in the sense of, okay, do you provide leads? Great. What kind of leads? What are the conversions on those leads that your team members are experiencing? Okay. Do you have a training about how to convert the leads? Do you know how to have the first conversation? Do you know what to do on the first appointment? Then do you know how to follow up? Do you have any of those templates by any chance? And just kind of like learning and digging deeper into what exactly it's necessary to ask. I'm thinking just to do like a post myself, what are like really good questions to ask a brokerage or the team whenever you're interviewing them, to help people understand that. And from there on, you will see that, for example, somebody who is offering like, I don't know, 99% split and stuff like that, and they provide nothing. Well, if they provide nothing, then there is a high chance you may make zero, and 99% of zero is still zero in my book. And then there are other teams that are a little bit more extreme, and their split is like extremely small, but they provide a ton of value. So then you're like, maybe it's actually a good learning opportunity for me. I'll make less, I get it, I'll have to work harder, but that's a good learning opportunity. And once I grow, perhaps there is a way to have a conversation with the team or brokerage to have better terms. Or maybe it will be time for us to kind of, venture out and do things by ourselves. You don't know, right? Because whenever somebody is leadership position, like I always question ourselves, like, what are we providing in terms of value? Can we improve that value? Are we enough? Those all questions that come to my mind.
Amazing. And if you were to flip that, it's great information, but you were to flip that for yourself, what are you, let's say you're on your deathbed, you're waiting for the gift. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now, but you want it written on your tombstone. What are you saying? What would you want to be recognized as? Wow, I can't believe that took that much to get that out.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's going to be work related. I think it's going to be, it's going to be more about family, actually, in terms of, I think what we help our family to learn, feel, be, all of those things. I think just it's important to also understand that I think many times the family doesn't necessarily need all the money. Again, money is important. We all are in it. At least one of the reasons is money, but another thing is to be there for the people and help them feel whatever they have to feel together with them. Yeah.
That's amazing. Great.
I mean, Nikolay, this has been fantastic. I mean, I think one thing there's been so many takeaways. I don't know about you, Rich, but I've been writing a lot of stuff down. And one of the things is just that how you're running you're growing into this, systematized brokerage, but you're delivering so much value from what it seems like to your agents because of all the stuff that you've went through, you and Julia for that matter. But if we just, I'll just give you the last word. I mean, what would you, knowing that, the Phone Warriors podcast, we're really mainly looking to help agents get to the next level in their business. And there's multiple different ways we can do that. We're obviously called the Phone Warriors for a reason. And that's why I wanted you to be here, because I had a feeling you were going to talk about expireds and do this other thing, which is fantastic. So, but you have the last word, man. Like, what would you want to leave to the people listening to this, whether it be now or could be 10 years from now, that live on YouTube?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like important to continue learning. There is a number of organizations that are peer-to-peer learning, sort of like what you guys are doing. I feel like it's like a peer-to-peer organization. People can learn from you, from each other. I know you have a great Facebook group as well where people can learn. And ultimately, also realizing you don't have to do everything by yourself. And if you have resources to partner up with somebody or to pay for a coach, or actually even when we're talking about the systems, full disclosure is I did not create a lot of those systems. We've hired an outside consultant who has been absolutely amazing. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to share her information. And she did a lot of things, accepted offer to close, everything else. She placed it into our CRM. She worked with virtual assistants. So you can do a lot of those things. You can work with coaches, with consultants. It's just a matter of finding the right ones. And I think there is a lot of people that sort of like want to be coaches, but they don't necessarily have the right mindset or experience. So I think the main challenge is to find the right people who actually sincerely mean well and keep growing. Yeah, I would say that's my takeaway.
Wow,
Fantastic.
that's fantastic
And,
information.
and yeah, what's the easiest way for someone to find you for referrals, and for, how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm somewhat active on my Instagram, so it's just Nikolay, NIKOLAY.NYC. Or if somebody wanted just to email me, I do reply to the emails, of course. It's N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, at cityspg.com, which is also our webpage, cityspg.com.
Perfect. Nikolay, this has been fantastic, dude. Rich, if you got anything else, man, I'm good. I got the value here.
This is great. The value is here. I appreciate you taking, 45 minutes out of your day today for us.
The time flew by. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.